How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here, the second hour of the program. As always, if you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you can get the show notes. You can get the live stream, runs 24/7. You can get the podcast. In the afternoons after the show, I do a 5-minute reset on the 4 big things you need to know in the afternoon. It takes 5 minutes to listen to in your favorite podcast app. You can get that link too. You get all the social media links. Just text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Phone number 877-973-7425. This is hyperlocal, and I apologize to every single one of you listening who is not anywhere near me. There is a special election tomorrow where I live, and I'm on the local radio station in Macon, Georgia, WMAC, where I live. There is a special election for the state Senate. Here's the problem for Republicans. This is an overwhelmingly Republican district. It covers the counties, the northern end of Bibb County and Houston County. It covers Monroe County, Upson County, Crawford County, and Peach County. I think that's it. It is the middle of, and again, I apologize to all of you listening everywhere else. I don't mean for you to tune out, but there's a national lesson here for you. The Republicans aren't turning out. You know who is? A very progressive Democrat who is running. In fact, as I'm sitting here, I just got another text message from the far left Working Families Party explaining to me that this Democrat it has the potential to win tomorrow because turnout is so low in Republican precincts. And it's true. The Democratic Party in Georgia is learning to turn voters out in these special elections. And there have been a couple in Georgia in highly Republican areas where Democrats won because the Republicans didn't turn out. So if you're in those areas in middle Georgia, you need to know there's an election tomorrow to replace John F. Kennedy. Not the Louisiana John F. Kennedy, the Georgia John F. Kennedy. He was the head of the state Senate, leader of the state Senate. He's running for lieutenant governor now and stepped aside. And you need to know that you can. He's, by the way, also a friend of mine. See, I have this problem in Georgia. Almost all the lieutenant governor candidates, and there are a billion of them, they're all friends of mine. John and I used to practice law next to each other. But his seat is open. The special election is tomorrow, and the Democrats are counting on Republicans not showing up. So if you're a Republican in middle Georgia tomorrow, you better go show up. If you don't know who to vote for, Phil's voting for Eric Wilson. I'm voting for Steve McNeil. So go vote for somebody tomorrow, please. Steve McNeil's a good guy. Works down the street from where I am. Now, I gotta talk about the awfuls. I wouldn't have started there, except this is like my third text. And you know, the funny thing is they think it's my wife. They're texting women. In fact, women in my church yesterday said this, something called the Working Families Party is asking me to go vote for some person I've never heard of. Is their election? I was like, yeah, and that guy is a wackadoo progressive. Don't go vote for him. But they're targeting women. The Working Families Party is trying to get them out to vote. While all of that's happening, I am in the news day. Now, listen, I realize we talk radio show hosts can have big egos. I'm in the news in the New York Times, and I didn't even start the show with a story about me. But I'm starting the second hour with me because I made the New York Times, and they are very upset with me. Here's the headline from Clyde McGrady. After Renee Good killing, derisive term for white women spreads on the far right. Vocal Trump supporters are demonizing Renee Good, her partner, and their allies, with some even using an acronym, awful or a fluent white female urban liberal. You know what led to Clyde McGrady writing this story? Well, on January 7th, 2026 at 2:22 p.m., during the commercial break of this program, I tweeted, "An awful," in parentheses, a fluent white female urban liberal, is dead after running her car into an ICE agent who opened fire on her. Progressive whites are turning violent. ICE agents have the right to defend themselves. Oh, poor baby. Okay, so listen, the moment I got this, in fact, hang on a second. I can pull it up for you. NY Times. Yeah, here we go. From Clyde McGrady, Mr. Erickson, I'm a reporter for the New York Times working on a story about the use of a fluent white female urban liberal, awful, to describe Renee Good and many of the protesters in Minneapolis. I saw your tweet saying this group is turning violent and wanted to get further perspective from you on this. Are you available to talk? All you have to do is Google Clyde McGrady. And when you Google Clyde McGrady, you will discover I am a national correspondent covering race for the New York Times. I'm actually pretty familiar with Clyde McGrady, who actually is a pretty progressive activist writer of the New York Times. And he regularly bemoans MAGA and the president. What's so interesting is he considers me a vocal Trump supporter. How many of you consider me a vocal Trump supporter? The New York Times does. And then he claims that we're using this acronym after Renee Good. If you're a regular listener of this program, I have been using the term awful for quite a while. I didn't even come up with it. I can't remember who came up with it. I want to say it was Stephen Miller, not that Stephen Miller, the other Stephen Miller. I think that Stephen Miller came up with it. The awfuls, the affluent white female urban liberals. And awful, in fact, I mean, we get to the third paragraph. He misspells my name, by the way. Layers of fact checkers at the New York Times, and they couldn't even get my name right, which is kind of, I mean, layers and layers of fact checkers. Conservative commentator Eric Erickson on social media wrote, "An awful is dead after running her car into an ICE agent who opened fire on her. Progressive whites are turning violent ICE agents have the right to defend themselves." From a co-host on an AM radio show in Orlando, Piers Outlaw, to an army of internet trolls, the acronym has taken off. Mr. Outlaw called awfuls the scourge of polite society. The term popped up on the internet Wiktionary this month as awful, AWFL, without the U. Literally, I've been using this phrase for more than a year, and this is brand new to Clyde McGrady, who weaves it into a story, and he cannot even spell my name right. I am the opening of this story, and he gets my name wrong with layers and layers of fact checkers in the New York Times. By the way, God bless Tricia McLaughlin of the Department of Homeland Security. She says, quote, "I'm more concerned with facts on the ground than I am about acronyms." In fact, Tricia McLaughlin was on
we are seeing from the left, and this should be the easiest thing in the world for Tim Walz and Mayor Fry to condemn. This shouldn't be a Republican or a Democrat issue. These are worshipers who are practicing their First Amendment rights to worship, and yet those rights were trampled on by these protesters who trespassed and began intimidating these Christians worshiping. So I'm glad to see the Department of Justice is taking this incredibly seriously, and I hope we see mugshots soon.
That was her talking about the awfuls who invaded the church, led by Black Lives Matter, which, by the way, I believe somebody told me it was Don Lemon who was talking about how that woman who organized the protest for Black Lives Matters made sure to get some good whites there as well. So it was diverse. They wanted the white people there. They wanted the awfuls. I told y'all the other day, that there was the video of the hunters at the lake in Minnesota, and this awful came out of the woods. This old awful came out of the woods with her Patagonia puffy jacket on. Have you? And the guy started joking about what bird call was that? Why was this woman yelling profanity at them? Because they were hunting, which is their legal right to do, and she did not want them killing the poor ducks. She started throwing rocks at the ducks in the water to scare them off until the men laughed and said those were the decoys, and then she started the FU again at them. I mean, the Babylon Bee has a headline the other day that Minnesota has changed its state bird now to the angry lesbian. It is something worth mocking. These angry, unhinged, progressive activists storming into churches, harassing ICE. Tragedy. It is tragic. I have said it repeatedly that Renee Good got shot. She put herself in that position. She was disrupting ICE. By the way, that reminds me. I want to read you. Where is the paragraph here? Where he comes back to, it brings me up again. I am the genesis of this story, you should know. I'm kind of flattered. The use of awful emerged well before Ms. Good was killed. Conservative critics began attaching it to female protesters as far back as last summer. Before that, conservatives say there's a good reason to key in on such women. Mr. Erickson, in a lengthy Substack post, called Ms. Good's death a tragedy, one that Ms. Good and her quote-unquote lesbian partner had brought on themselves. Good had been harassing ICE agents much of the day. Good had been involved in a progressive group called ICE Watch that encouraged not just obstruction of ICE, but something they called de-arrest, which means helping detained illegal immigrants escape. It is not clear how deeply Ms. Good or her partner were involved in the organized protests that greeted immigration agents in Minnesota. We literally have her on videotape for minutes, honking her horn, trying to disrupt the ICE agent. Good gracious, these people are just going out of their way. Now, what's so funny is Naomi Wolf, the liberal writer who's moved rightward, has noted on social media that liberal men, disproportionately estrogenized and physically passive, had left liberal women frustrated and eager for a fight. Y'all, he can't deny the phenomenon of these affluent white female urban liberals. They're insane awfuls. And by the way, I have to tell you, the point he missed, and I would have made this point. I would have made the point had I talked to him, but I wasn't going to talk to this guy because I knew it was going to be a hit job. The moment the New York Times emailed, I knew they were going to do a hit job on me and my tweet over this issue. There was no reason to talk to him. There wouldn't have been a fair hearing. But the thing that he misses, why do we use the term awful, affluent white female urban liberal? Because too many of us have friends named Karen. That's why. Because when you say we're talking about the Karens, you get angry emails and phone calls from your friends named Karen. And so we don't want to call them Karens because we all know Karen, but you know who we're talking about. The Karens of the world are now the awfuls, the affluent white female urban liberals who are just insane and go out there doing these horrible things, disrupting people, and the New York Times is offended by it. They're offended by it. A newsroom run by the awfuls is offended by a term that accurately captures the awfuls. This is a newsroom that has elevated the affluent white female urban liberal, the wine mom du jour, the Karens of the world, to go out there and attack anyone who disagrees with them. They profile these awfuls and make them heroes to the left. And then they don't like it when we coin a creative term and start deploying it. And again, I didn't come up with the term. I just popularized it. And now they're mad at me because of it in the New York Times. Hello, greetings. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. If you wish to be on the program, let me find this clip. Can I find this clip? Do I have this clip? Yes. This is Byron Donalds. He was on Fox News talking about Don Lemon and the protesters storming the church. There's a point to his.
This is what I mean. These agitators who, by the way, they are paid, folks. America, they are paid to do this kind of mess.
I am actually told very reliably, and I see Andy No now, who has followed Antifa for years, saying the same thing, that you've got to stop telling yourself these are paid activists, because many of them are not paid. At the organizing level, they are. But the large crowd that comes in, it is messianic zeal. It is religious zeal. They do not have to pay these people to show up. And we delude ourselves on the right by convincing ourselves that they are paid protesters. Some of them are, most of them are not. The Renee Goods of the world and her partner, they weren't paid to do that. They wanted to do it because it was allowing them to feel like they were part of some virtuous holy cause. My daughter came to my office and brought me a cup of coffee. She heads to the UK tomorrow for study abroad. And she got stuck in the MLK Day parade and said she doesn't really think it was the parade. It was a bunch of people chanting Black Power, we're black and we're proud, Black Power. And now it makes sense why she was texting asking if it was a good idea for her to join in. I don't know if that was the parade or something, or a protest or what, but those people weren't being paid to march down the street chanting Black Power, we're black and proud. They did it because they feel like they're in some sort of virtuous cause. So I understand the point Byron Donalds is making, but you need to understand that this has become a mythology on the right that all of these people are paid. I myself have had to be disabused of the notion because I, for a very long time, believed it as well, and it's simply not true anymore. Many of these people are, through organic outgrowth, wanting to be a part of these protests. They want to be a part of demonstrations. They want to be disruptive. They don't go to church. This is church for them. This is how they get their religious fervor taken care of. They participate in obstruction and protest, and it makes them feel closer to their God, which is themselves. It's a religion of self. Now, you're at your office right now and you're probably using the Lord's name in vain because something has happened to your computer and you're frustrated. Well, Vision Computer, can work on your sanctification with you by building you a new computer or upgrading your computer or just being your managed IT service so you don't have to worry about dealing with your computers. They deal with your computers. You call them at 404-COMPUTER. Go to visioncomputers.com. 404-COMPUTE. Nationwide, doesn't matter. You get to anywhere in the nation, work with Vision Computers. They can save you money. They can help you avoid scams. They can make your employees productive at their jobs while Vision's productive with their computers. They can remote in. They can handle email support, printer support. $199 a year per computer. If you mention Eric, you might get a discount. But here's the thing. If you're in the gig economy, you work out of your local coffee shop, you need help as well. They can help you. They can build you a new computer, a laptop, desktop. By the way, the IT comes free if you get the computer from Vision Computers. Otherwise, $199 a year. They can keep you online and productive. They can keep you engaged. They can be good at your computer so you can be good at your job. Call them at 404-COMPUTER. Go to visioncomputers.com. Let Vision Computers take care of all your technology needs. Hello and welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. I hope you're having a nice day off if you are, and otherwise it's not a bad day at the office or wherever you are, I hope. The phone number here is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, we'd be happy to have you. Okay, I've waited until now. What is wrong with the president on this Greenland stuff? This is. Oh my gosh, Mr. President, I agree with you. This is the crazy thing. I agree with Donald Trump that we should possess Greenland. And the Danes are not New Yorkers. This is not the way to go about doing it. Ted Cruz was on television defending the president on this issue. I might as well, let me find this clip here and cue this up for Ted Cruz right here with Maria Bartiromo on Fox Business.
When it comes to Greenland, I want to commend President Trump for being single-mindedly focused on America first, on U.S. economic interest and U.S. national security interest. I I believe it is overwhelmingly in America's national interest to acquire Greenland. A year ago, as chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, I chaired a hearing on the benefits to the United States of America of acquiring Greenland. Now, some folks in the press, they clutch their pearls and they say, well, what do you mean acquiring Greenland? How could that happen? Look, the whole history of America has been a history of acquiring new lands and new territories. Whether you go back to Thomas Jefferson making the Louisiana Purchase, about half of the United States of America today, or you go back to America purchasing Alaska from Russia. You want to talk about, at the time they called it Seward's Folly, it turned out to be an extraordinarily consequential purchase. Greenland has massive rare earth minerals and critical minerals. There are enormous economic benefits to America.
He's right. He's absolutely right. Of course, with all these other purchases, but this has become a talking point today by some MAGA supporters as well. We got Alaska, we got the bottom of New Mexico and Arizona Gadsden Purchase, we got Louisiana Purchase. Yes, all of them from willing sellers. Denmark is not a willing seller here. I feel like I'm Mike Pence. I want to play these two clips of Mike Pence. Where are these here? You know, so Mike Pence is actually a longtime friend of mine. I dearly care about the guy and his wife. They're prayer warriors for my wife. Half the time, I know that my wife is about to get a scan because I get a text from Mike asking what day it is. The scan is like, when did she get it? I have no idea. He knows better than me. This is Mike Pence. I'm playing you one that has nothing to do with Greenland. But this is Mike Pence on with Jake Tapper on CNN.
Iran is the leading state sponsor of terror in the world. This regime that's been in place under the mullahs for the last 50 years has not only oppressed and tyrannized their people, but they've also exported terror across the region, claimed American lives in the region and around the world. And it is absolutely in the interest of the United States of America to see a change in Iran. And I am grateful that different than President Obama in his first year in office. Now we have a president who is willing to speak out and express support for the people of Iran as they take to the streets. Back in 2009, I actually authored a resolution in the Congress while President Obama and the Obama administration remained silent during the Green Revolution. We had to pass a resolution in Congress by almost a unanimous vote to ultimately see our president speak out on behalf of those people, but the revolution was crushed.
So there he is praising. We finally have a president who's willing to stand up for the Iranian people. We finally have a president doing what Barack Obama wouldn't do. And then got to criticize him on Greenland.
Question right now, Jake, not of what the president's trying to accomplish, but how. And I have concerns about using what I think is a questionable constitutional authority, imposing unilateral tariffs on NATO allies to achieve this objective, as much as I had concerns about the threat of a military invasion, which apparently is no longer being talked about. But the what here, I think, is absolutely in the interest of the United States of America. I mean, literally, I think it was Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of State who negotiated the purchase of Alaska, who first suggested that the United States also purchase Greenland. I traveled to the region in 2019, visited Iceland to literally make the case of our national security interest as China and Russia continue to intrude farther and farther into the Arctic. So what the president's trying to do here, I think, is absolutely in the interest of the United States of America. I would just rather see the president use his persuasive powers.
Oh, yes, you praise the president on his stance on Ireland. Although these people in the streets in Iran, they stormed the streets because he said help was on the way, and then he delivered no help. Maybe he still will. And with Greenland, it makes strategic sense. Although you know and I know if we were to possess Greenland, the environmentalists would prevent us from getting the rare earth minerals. But still, it has descended into soap opera. This is kind of crazy. The New York Times now has this story that seemed a little bit crazy. President Trump in a text message to Norway's leader Sunday, said one of the reasons behind his push to acquire Greenland is he didn't win the Nobel Prize. In his message, which was released by the Prime Minister's office, Mr. Trump questioned Denmark's century-old claim to the island and repeated his demand for complete and total control of it. It's just kind of unhinged. And people are like, there is no way the president of the United States texted the Norwegian president that one of the reasons he's after Greenland is because Norway didn't give the Nobel Peace Prize, which, by the way, Norway didn't oversee the Nobel Prize. Well, the Prime Minister of Norway has now confirmed that, yes, his office leaked the text, and yes, it did come from the President of the United States. This is the statement from the Norwegian Prime Minister. I can confirm that this is a text message that I received yesterday afternoon from President Trump. It came in response to a short text message from me to President Trump sent earlier on the same day on behalf of myself and the President of Finland, Alexander Stubb. In our message to Trump, we conveyed our opposition to his announced tariff increase against Norway, Finland, and select other countries. We pointed to the need to de-escalate and proposed a telephone conversation between Trump, Stubb, and myself on the same day. The message from Trump came shortly after the message was sent. It was his decision to share his message with other NATO leaders, said the Prime Minister. Norway's position on Greenland is clear. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and Norway fully supports the Kingdom of Denmark on this matter. We also support that NATO is a responsible way in taking steps to strengthen security and stability in the Arctic. As regards the Nobel Peace Prize, I have clearly explained, including to President Trump, what is well known. The prize is awarded by an independent Nobel committee and not the Norwegian government. What are we doing here? This is kind of nuts. So that I can give you the drama here. Here's the text message. The Prime Minister of Norway at 3:48 p.m. on Sunday texts Donald Trump. Dear Mr. President, dear Donald, on the contact across the Atlantic on Greenland, Gaza, Ukraine, and your tariff announcement yesterday, you know our position on these issues, but we believe we should work to take this down and de-escalate. So much is happening around us where we need to stand together. We are proposing a call with you later today with both of us or separately. Give us a hint of what you prefer best, Alex and Jonas. Mr. President responded to the Prime Minister of Norway at 4:15 p.m. Dear Jonas, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. Denmark cannot protect that land from Russia or China, and why do they have a right of ownership anyway? There are no written documents. It's only that a boat landed there hundreds of years ago, but we had boats landing there also. I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding, and now NATO should do something for the United States. The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. Thank you, President DJT. Y'all, this is insane. This is just bat crap crazy from Donald Trump. Why are we doing this? Why is he doing this? He imposes tariffs on our European allies who dare to stand up to him with Denmark on the issue of Greenland. When the Prime Minister of Norway replies to Donald Trump and says, can we have a phone call about this to discuss this and de-escalate? Donald Trump replies, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize, I've no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, and then says Denmark can't protect Greenland from Russia or China. By the way, you should know that Donald Trump today has invited Vladimir Putin and Russia to be on the Economic Development Committee for Gaza. So Russia is such a threat to the United States that Donald Trump wants them to be a part of the peaceful rebuilding of Gaza. He's blaming Ukraine for the Russian invasion, not Russia. I mean, y'all, I don't understand what's going on here. Is he crazy? What is this? He's like a snapping turtle. He's latched hold of this and he can't let go. And here's the reality check. We've got a midterm election coming in November. You've got more Republicans that are willing to step on his toes because he stepped on their toes. He promised Bill Cassidy of Louisiana he would stay out of that Senate primary. He's now endorsed someone against Bill Cassidy. Cassidy has nothing to lose now. Susan Collins has nothing to lose. Murkowski has nothing to lose. The president is alienating Republicans in Congress. You've got 8% of the nation. And that includes hardly any Republicans think that we should invade Greenland or take Greenland. We don't have the money to buy it. What are we doing here, Donald? What are we doing here? This is like you're behaving like an 80-year-old who gets obsessed with something and can't let it go. It's like Joe Biden being obsessed with the smell of a little girl's hair. You got to let it go, President Trump. You got to let it go. There are bigger issues than Greenland. We've got a military base in Greenland. Get Denmark to allow us an expansion of Greenland. And you know and I know all of your supporters will claim that's what you wanted anyway. When they give it to you, you'll be able to take the win and save face. Trying to threaten Europe and bully Europe with economic warfare to try to get Greenland is insanity. And this talking point about how we have bought all of these other pieces of land to add to the United States is nuts because they all had willing sellers. Denmark, newsflash, not a willing seller, Donald. This diplomacy by being a jerk undermines our allies. And now listen, there's this strain within MAGA that says, well, they're bad allies. They're too woke. They don't believe in freedom of speech. They're too progressive. We don't like them. Okay, fine. Who are your allies? Are you trying to do backdoor isolationism where everyone gives us the middle finger? Also, Mr. President, if you make these people mad, we're 10 months from a midterm. The Wall Street Journal has a story out how 96% of tariffs have been paid by Americans, only 4% by foreign countries and businesses cutting fees. Do you really want an economic war with Europe before the midterms? The European nations have the power to harm our economy in a way that potentially pushes us to a recession. You've alienated Jerome Powell. Let's put all the pieces on the chessboard here. Mr. President, you've thoroughly pissed off Jerome Powell and alienated the Federal Reserve, so they have no inclination to cut rates. You're alienating our European allies with the trade war so that you can try to conquer Greenland without a shot being fired. The Chinese don't like you. The Canadians don't like you, and the Mexicans don't like you. What if all of these countries in the run-up to the midterms decide to go to economic warfare with us? It hurts them, but it really hurts you in the midterms. You've alienated our European allies. You've alienated our neighbors. You've alienated China. You're doing this stupid stuff with Greenland. What if all of these nations get it in their head that, hey, we can really get payback on this bully by engaging in economic warfare with the United States in the run-up to the midterms, and they're all going to blame Donald Trump. And they'll put Democrats in the House and maybe even the Senate. Now, he's lucky. I don't think the world is that smart to do. I don't think the European allies are that smart to do it, but they could, and you've alienated the Federal Reserve, so they're not going to cut rates for you. If the European allies were to do this stuff, this is not a strategic play right before the midterms to engage in when they could wreak economic havoc on us. And sure, they'd be hurt too. But many of them aren't up for re-election or their party up for re-election in the next 10 months. But here in the United States, your party is. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The full number 877-973-7425 should you wish to be on the program. Look, I don't mean to rock your world here, but I'm so baffled because I totally 1,000% agree with the president on Greenland that it's in our strategic interest to boost our military capacity in Greenland and also northern Canada for that matter. Meanwhile, the Chinese are now in bed with Canada. The Canadians are moving towards China, and the European allies are like, expand your presence on Greenland. We're just not giving you the island. When we come back, we need to do a real reality check on this stuff. Let me, Alan, I got about a minute or so here for you. Welcome. How are you?
Oh, real good, Eric. I always enjoy your program, and I just to the point. I think, and you're right. Trump is thin-skinned, overly sensitive, complex, all those things. But he's finally just said, enough's enough, and he views politics as Machiavellian, and he's just decided to take out the hammer. He knows what's going on. And he's just said, enough's enough. Because, like, the European allies, if you recall, I'm sure you recall several years back, where he told the Germans, there's a little clip you might have seen, I'm sure, hey, you guys got to start spending more on your defense. It was at 2.5%. You need to rate, or 2. You need to start spending more. And they smiled at him. I remember the two guys just smiling at him. Well,
yeah,
Trump,
and laughed about their dependence on Russian natural gas.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not, and I have no idea, and I'm not even going to attempt to argue. Like, I know your IQ is probably 150 plus, and I'm not. I know I'm probably about 110 or 112. No, I mean,
look,
you know what I'm getting at. I can't go.
Go ahead, real quick, because I got to jump to an ad.
Oh no, it's just too obvious. He said, "To hell with it. I was nice, not nice anymore."
Look, I get that, but they're still our allies, and they don't have to give in, and that will cause him and us trouble if they just embrace the suck, and that's the problem. Now, what's not going to suck is if you embrace Old Glory Bank. Don't you like that for a transition? Old Glory Bank is my bank, and I love them, and you can too. I've got a no-fee checking, no-fee savings account with Old Glory Bank. You can get the premium accounts if you want, interest-bearing checking, all that. If you're active duty military, they'll waive fees for you. oldglorybank.com/Eric is where you want to go. They've been really stepping up to help the veterans community. You know, one of the big issues for homeless veterans is having bank accounts. They've been working with a nonprofit to help homeless veterans get bank accounts and help them get back on their feet. They work with businesses, very hands-on with business across the country. In fact, if you're in a conservative business and you're worried about the left coming for you in your bank, well, oldglorybank.com/Eric, go check them out. They might be the bank for you. They are a great bank with great people, by conservatives, for conservatives. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, terms and conditions apply. oldglorybank.com/Eric.